Welcome to the Pivot Experience podcast, where leadership transformation isn't just a concept, it's a journey we take together. This is where real leaders share real stories about the moments that changed everything. In each episode, we dive deep into the pivotal experiences that transformed good leaders into great ones. Whether you're a seasoned executive, a rising star in your organization, or someone ready to take that next big step in your leadership journey, you're in the right place. Get ready to learn, grow, and maybe even find that spark that ignites your own leadership pivot. This is the Pivot Experience podcast, where your next breakthrough starts here.
Hey guys, what's up? It's your friend, Pastor John R. Adolph from the Antioch Church in Beaumont, Texas. Hey, listen, do me a favor, like, share, and subscribe this channel so you can continue to pivot into your next.
Welcome to our monthly Lead Better. First and foremost, before we get started, for those of you who are joining us, could you do me a huge favor and put where you're joining us from, what city, state, and if you're currently employed at a Chick-fil-A, put the Chick-fil-A name that you're working at in the chat. We're glad to have you guys here. We want to make this session as interactive as possible. We have a great guest who has given us the opportunity to ask some questions about her journey and what she's done in the Chick-fil-A world. But before we do that, I want to take a moment and introduce who we are here at TPE. Here's the team here at TPE. My name is Alex Seal. I've had the pleasure and the joy for working for the world's most caring brand for the last 22 years here in Beaumont, Texas. Along with us on this team, we have Ashley Allison. She works with me almost as like a counterpart to me in the 9-to-5, but in the business, she is a business coach as well. We have Naftali Franco, who is our bilingual specialist. He serves our Spanish-speaking community. He also has the capacity to serve leaders that are non-Spanish speaking, but he primarily serves those individuals. We also have Giovanna Roach, who we belovedly call our gavel, here with us today. She definitely helps us. And actually, before we go too far, I don't want to get off of Giovanna too quickly. She just got a new client to cross over the line into LDP. So shout out to Giovanna and congratulations to Giovanna for helping another leader excel and get to the next level. And we have our newest coach. He's actually on the line with us today. I didn't know if he's going to show up with us today, but we have Abram Moon. He is from Virginia. He has joined us recently, a Point University graduate, currently serving as the chief operating officer for his restaurant in pursuit of becoming an operator. And so we're so glad to have you guys joining us today. And what we do here at the Pivot Experience is we partner with operators and other leaders to help them pivot into their next. We have the pleasure of working with a lot of operators here in Texas and beyond. On the screen here, you can see some of the feedback that we've gotten from some of the operators that we've had a chance to work with and with their leaders. We've gotten a few people into LDP, and so we're excited to continue to pour into the landscape of leadership development and helping other leaders pivot into their next. This is Lead Better every fourth Sunday of the month, with the exception of those months that have holidays that fall on that weekend. We have this free virtual experience where we like to bring in guests and we like to bring in other leaders to speak into different subjects and topics that we believe that are important to the trajectory of your development and essentially give you tips and tools to be able to help you get further along in your journey. On today's Lead Better is no different. We have very special guests. Chick-fil-A operator LaChelle Cress is joining us. She has carved out some time on this precious Sunday to spend with us. And hopefully there will be some things said on today's line that will help you guys get to the next level. How are you doing, LaChelle?
Can you hear me now?
Yes, ma'am.
I'm doing great. Excited to be
Good
here
deal. So
this evening.
Good deal. So we're going to get into an icebreaker, Alex, but before...
Hold up, Alex. So this picture right here does not do LaChelle.
I was going to say, well, no, wait, what doesn't do me justice? I think I look good. I think my dog looks super overweight, and he's lost weight since that picture.
No, because you're missing one new addition to your family.
Yeah.
That's why it doesn't do your whole family justice.
Let's see. Can you see her? Oh, this is not working the way I want it to.
Turn your brightness down. Turn your
What?
brightness.
It is.
Oh, I just saw her right there at the end.
Aw.
That's my little
Okay,
nugget. She's
so
3 months old.
There was a +1 to this picture right here.
There's
but,
a +1.
Beautiful family, LaChelle. We have an icebreaker lined up, but before we do that, could you introduce yourself to the audience and give us a little bit of your story?
I know Sterling Watson. I think I know you, Sterling. Do I know you? You just said exclamation point LaChelle. Sorry. A little bit about my story. Is that what you said? I am originally
just a quick bio.
Originally from Deer Park, the Southeast Houston area, and I've been with Chick-fil-A since worked with you at Fairmont. Hey, yeah. Been with Chick-fil-A since 2011, so that's going on 14 years, and worked at a store in Fairmont, and then went off to school, Texas A&M University, and graduated from A&M, came back, worked with Giovanna and Neff and them in Baytown, Texas, and then went off to LDP, was in LDP for almost 3 years, got selected to be an operator after exiting LDP, and I've been an operator at Kima FSU in Southeast Houston for about 5 years, so it'll be really close to 5 years. But this week, actually, I am relocating to a different store in Southeast Houston called East Pearland. So, yeah.
Well, congratulations to you
Thank you,
on
thank
that.
you.
I believe we all share a little bit of history. I know you worked with Giovanna and Neff, and I think you spent a day in our restaurant randomly. My operator walked up to me
A
and
long
said,
time
"Hey,
ago.
as a part of something, there's a lady from corporate coming." I was like, "All right, cool," And then I remember seeing you come in, and we chatted a little bit. But no, thank you so much for coming on, and I appreciate you spending some time with us. So we have a little icebreaker that we like to play here during Lead Better called Tug of War. Okay, so I'm going to give you a pair of words that's both seem essential, but you have to pick one, and you have to say why you picked that one and not the other one. Okay,
Yeah.
so here's your
All right.
first set of words: empathy or accountability.
Accountability.
That's okay.
Do I have to explain
This is your
it?
choice.
Explain it?
Yeah.
I think that's just where I naturally lean and those two. So I'm going more natural lean. I naturally lean accountability. I would say I have to work on empathy.
Yeah. I think some of us naturally either lean a little bit too far left or too far right when it comes down to those two. So you're not alone in that. Innovation or consistency.
See, this has changed. Giovanna's probably going to be surprised. Consistency.
Okay.
Definitely consistency. I think it used to be innovation. I think once you become an operator, consistency in that creating a consistent team, a consistent guest experience, I think that just becomes more of a focal point than innovation in my perspective.
Well, that makes me feel like I might know the answer to this next one, but let's give it a whirl.
Yeah, go ahead. What you got?
Clear expectations or freedom?
See, this is a weird one. I actually would probably go freedom. Like I'm mixing it up with you people. So I would go freedom with clear expectations, but I end all of my meetings with all my directors or any of my leaders by saying, go be free. Because I think that that's a part of my leadership styles. I want other people to be the best leaders they can be. Now the consistency part is like, I also need you to consistently get results and, do what we need you to do in the business. So I think that's where it's like, you can innovate to get the consistent results. That's fine with me. It doesn't bother me.
Okay, here's the last one. Results or relationships?
Yeah, that was a tough one too. I think over my journey in Chick-fil-A, these have all changed. Like these just have all, 5 years ago, I would have answered them all totally differently. Current speaking, it's results. That's what is my lean. And then relationships is what I have to be more intentional about. But 5 years ago, it would have been the opposite.
Yeah, I think for me, and people who work with me closely, I kind of float in and out of these. In that one in particular, being extremely results driven or, being soft as putty when it comes down to certain relationships. So we all are works in progress. And so thank you so much for participating in that.
Yeah,
And so
for sure.
the first section of our conversation, we're going to be focusing on your journey to becoming an operator. A lot of people who join Lead Better have aspirations of owning their own restaurant, their own Chick-fil-A in particular. So you talked about being in LDP close to 3 years, and can you walk us through maybe the process? I know it's way different now than it was before, maybe when you got in. But what were some of the things that you did in terms of getting prepared to become a candidate for LDP and then transitioning into becoming an operator?
So I'm kind of looking back on the LDP process and the operator process. For me personally, getting into LDP, I felt harder than getting to be an operator. I think it's just a little different in realizing the differences in those roles. So for LDP, you are applying to be an employee of a company. You are fulfilling a business need. Like, they need grand opening supervisors, they need interim managers. That is a business need. It's a job that is needed. And for operator, you are interviewing to be a partner, really. And so it is just a totally different application process, really, on both. I think what LDP helps you with is that throughout your LDP journey, you're interacting with corporate folks all the time. So you get to understand a little bit more of the lingo, you get to understand and work on your communication skills, and then you get the opportunity to run company operated restaurants, or even there's sometimes in grand openings, not as much in grand openings, but running company operated restaurants that give you experience to be able to talk about in your operator interviews. But the processes themselves, I thought, were very different, especially because for an LDP interview, you are, once again, being interviewed as an employee. There's certain things they can't ask you, and that, it's more corporate-y, and you're needing to show up more corporate-y, I would say. For an operator interview, you literally sign your life away when you first start the interview process, and they can ask you whatever you want. Like, whatever they want. There is no line that cannot be kind of crossed as far as the interview process, not in a bad way, but as far as wanting to really get to know who you are. And so I think if you're a generally authentic person, no problems there. You're going to do just fine. But I think if that's a struggle for you, then that operator interview process is way more difficult in that aspect.
And so I think it's interesting that you say that, because we do have some people, just this last Lead Better, I know for sure at least one person who was there was applying externally. And so could you maybe provide some further context into this idea of, hey, there's this corporate driven employee based interview versus the operator interview? What are some of the things that maybe struck you as not odd, but maybe caught you off guard when you were trying to get into the operator seat, like in your interview process?
So my interview process was a little unique in that my husband and I met in LDP. So we were both interviewing at the same time for restaurants, which was abnormal. And so we got a lot of questions that a normal applicant would not have gotten, as like questions like, are you going to feel demasculated? This was to my husband. Like, if your wife becomes an operator and you're not an operator, or like, even for me, like, hey, you've done this for 10 years. I was like 9 years when I became an operator. It was how long I've worked for Chick-fil-A. And so, you'd done this for 9 years. Would you, resent him if he became an operator and you didn't? And so there's definitely just more questions like that I thought were definitely a little bit like, man, would I resent him? Like, I don't know, and so those are a little bit more like half therapy, half interviewing. And then, there are definitely some questions that are just not normal in terms of really details of your childhood, your background, things that, that I was fine sharing and felt really comfortable sharing, but it was other people probably would be like, why do you need to know that? Or why are you asking? And I think that some of those things, as I've now interacted with more and more with operators, is that they're really just trying to get as much of a gauge as possible of kind of who you are, where your upbringing came from, to be able to project out what you're going to do as an operator. And so I think really knowing yourself, really knowing your stories, really knowing why you made decisions throughout your life, I think is super, super helpful, and is a little different than LDP. LDP is a little bit more businessy focused, which obviously operator is businessy focused as well. But operator, I feel like, is more communication based, and how can you communicate what you've done throughout your life?
Yeah, I tend to think a lot of people, when they think about the interview process at this level, they don't think that it's that, I don't want to use the word invasive, but it's not that detailed. Honestly, had the opportunity to work with someone who is an operator currently, and they've went through the process maybe 3 or 4 times. They got a few no's along the way. And then they said that the last interview, the things that I guess the point in which they got comfortable telling their story, it spiked them emotionally, because they were not prepared to talk about certain things. They were not prepared to go as deep into their lives or into their memories about certain things. So I think you're spot on when you talk about just being acquainted with, even personally myself, when I think about the prospect of, if you were ever to go down that route, are you that familiar with your past? Or you that in tune with what you have done to be able to articulate that? And so I guess the next question for me is, what did you do, like personally and professionally, to prepare yourself for those interviews?
Yeah, so I think that the LDP one is definitely different. So I was in college, went to college for business management, and then I came out and worked for an operator for almost exactly a year, until I applied for LDP. And there was a list, I don't know if there's still a list, but there was a list back in the day of like what you needed to know before you applied for LDP. So I learned up and down that list. And then the biggest things was I annoyed the mess out of my operator, and probably Giovanna and anybody who would listen to me, of just trying to get the information that I needed to know to be able to be competitive as far as information goes. And then from the information perspective, I was really working on, I needed to have some results to talk through, to be able to, so that I could feel competitive for LDP. So that was kind of my biggest thing, was getting to pick my operator's brain as much as possible, getting to pick different people's brains that have been with Chick-fil-A longer than I had at the time, and then being able to build on some sort of result and be able to really speak in depth about one particular aspect of the business. I kind of tell people this, for people who are going to LDP, you need to know the 50,000 foot of all of the business, but you need to be really good at something. Like, I don't know what it is. You just need to be really good at something. And be able to really show your business savvy in whatever that particular thing is, because then you're showing the skill of, I can learn how to be good at whatever that thing is. So that if I can learn how to be really good at, profitability, then I can learn how to be really good at sales. And if I can learn how to be good at sales, I can learn how to be good at food safety. And if I can learn how to be good at food safety, I can learn how to be good at customer experience, whatever it may be. But everyone always has their wheelhouse of whatever that skill thing is. And I think once I got into LDP, I was like, okay, I've got to build on my wheelhouse of what my thing is, and then be able to prove that I can do that thing. So I think the biggest thing for me in LDP was, I'm proving to myself, and I'm proving to whoever I'm interviewing with in the future, that I can do this. And so, a little bit in my LDP journey, I was like, if I go through this process and don't like this job, then I'm not going to apply to be an operator. Like, there's a possibility I don't like this. There's a possibility I'm not good at this. And for my journey, I just so happened to be good at it, and I just so happened to like it. So I continued on with it. So.
Love that. If I were to ask a question, and I know this may be a little off script, but can we talk about your time in LDP? What were some of the things that you felt like were the drivers that you drove results in, that helped you cross the line into becoming an operator? Like, once you got into LDP, what are some of those highlights that you felt like you did really well at, that contributed to your success in becoming an operator?
So I don't know if this is going to help answer the question, but it might. So I think that LDP was the first time I really got to feel the responsibility of operating a restaurant. I think when you're a part of a team, you don't feel it. Like, and as much as you want to say, even if you're the number one, say you're the GM number one guy, if someone, gets sick and wants to sue that restaurant, it's not you they're suing. They are suing the operator. It's not like there's a sense of responsibility that you don't quite have yet if you're that number one guy, even if you're not the operator. In LDP, you're still not it. It's Inc. It's not me. It wasn't me at the time. It was Inc. There was a big corporate umbrella behind me. But while I was on ground at that time, whatever assignment it was, I was the representative, and all the chips were going to fall on me if they were going to fall. So I think that was the biggest kind of first, oh crap moment, a little bit of like, my name is on this restaurant. Like quite literally, that receipt that someone is getting their food, it says my name on it. And I don't think you feel the weight of that until you have that, whether you're external and applying to be an operator or whether you're not in LDP, is that when you get that weight of, this is my name on this, and this is my name on these people, and if something happens to them, then it's me. Like, I think that level of responsibility just changes you as a leader a little bit.
No, I think that's great perspective. It may not be totally directed to the question, but I love the fact that you bring this up, because I think a lot of times, even myself personally, where the responsibilities I have in a restaurant, I know in my back pocket that if something gets bad enough, I pick up the phone and I call my operator and I say, hey, this is what's going on. Want to make sure you're in on the loop on it, because ultimately the liability is on you. And no matter how long I've been there, or no matter what my responsibility matrix is, I still on the P&L, I'm just saying that term loosely for the room, but the FCR, I see the name that's on that FCR. So I'm so glad that you brought that up, because that's great perspective. Anything else that you can recall possibly about your time in LDP? Maybe a challenge that you had
So I think in general, which I would say this is kind of a little bit of how it's changed me being a leader going through the LDP program in general, it was that pre-LDP, I was definitely more of a heart-led leader and not as much of a mind-led leader. I think throughout the journey, that process changed. I had to learn how to use my mind for majority of my decisions and kind of use my heart as a check-in, not being fully led by my heart. I think if you run a restaurant fully led by your heart, it's like, we're in the wind at all times. It's just not as, it's great to say, but if you've ever worked with someone who leads that way, it's not stable. It's not, it's not in this place. But so I very much so led with my heart. I get into LDP. I go to my first IM assignment. I lead with my heart. I meet people that I fall in love with in 3 months. The team, I fall in love with the team. I fall in love with the people. I fall in love with their stories. I fall in love with all these things. And then I have to get on an airplane and go somewhere else and completely say, I'm never going to see you people ever again in my entire life. Maybe besides keeping in touch on Facebook. And that I felt like I was leaving my heart in different places all across the country. And so by my third or fourth assignment, I was like, I can't do this. This is not sustainable for me to be so emotionally invested in all of these people that then it's now making me not a good leader, because I'm feeling torn away. Whenever I leave, I'm feeling torn. And so I think it made me reevaluate how I interact with teams. And one of my team, I literally bawled crying the whole flight, moving from one assignment to a next assignment, because I was like, I love these people. These people are amazing. But in which I think that there's a part of that that's really good. I think there's a heart that everyone who wants to be an operator, you should have a heart. I'm not saying don't have that. I think it helps drive you. I think it has purpose. But I think that for a leader of a business, you have to learn how to have its heart in its place to be able to lead a business effectively over a substantial amount of time.
No, love that. So I think this segues us perfectly into the next section of our conversation, where we're going to be talking about some of your early days as an operator. Now you have had an opportunity to spend some time with one team. You're not moving back and forth, right? And so what are some of those early challenges that you intercepted as an operator, like day one, year one, month one? What are some of those things that you recall that jumped off the page to you that not sent you home discouraged, but tested you a little bit.
Yeah. So I think we did it to both restaurants, the current restaurant that I have and have had for 5 years, and then the restaurant that I'm actually transitioning to are both transitional restaurants, which means they're existing, they're not grand openings, they're existing, already operating restaurants. There's a lot of perks to getting a transition restaurant. However, there's some non-perks of that you're not building a team from scratch. You're inheriting a team. Inheriting is the wrong legal word. You're hiring a team that's already existing at that restaurant. But the restaurant that I inherited, or the team that I inherited, we started out with 0 people. It was just me and Joe. This transition is totally different because I'm bringing 20 of my employees with me to my new store. So it's me and 20 friends rather than just me and Joe. But when it was just me and Joe, the big term that we use a lot is the right leader versus the right now leader. And so when we hired that first staff, we had a lot of right now leaders, but we didn't have a lot of the right leaders. And like, you have to operate that restaurant. You have to have people. You have to have 45 team members or 50 team members, however many of those people there are. And it takes some time to get the right people on the bus. And I think sometimes, and even as a new leader, I wanted to take a chance on everybody. And you can't take a chance on everybody. Like, you can't have everybody be your project people because you don't have enough time to project 45 people, you know? And so I think that was something I had learned early on in probably first year is I was like, no, I'm really I see something in them. And don't get me wrong, I think that almost any person I've ever worked with enough coaching, development, hand-holding, maybe you want to call it, I think that you can probably squeeze something out of anybody. But you can't squeeze something out of 45 people all at the same time. Like, you have to get some people that you're like, okay, you're naturally a little bit ahead of these other folks. I need you to plug into this role, and I can spend less time with that. And then I can focus more on these other things. And honestly, that's something I'm teaching one of my leaders right now. She has a great heart and she wants to help everybody. But I'm like, girlfriend, we've already got 4 project people. We can't add any more project people. Like, no more project. The rest of them, they better be like, easy peasy. You got the skills. Let's make a move and let's go on. But I think that was something early on, was taking on too many project people at the same time.
No, I can definitely.
LaChelle, I'm just kind of thinking about the journey of your first year. Well, and LaChelle's journey first year was COVID too. So she became an operator, and then like COVID hit, was like 3 months later or something like that.
No. I took over after COVID, March.
Right after COVID. Yeah.
May.
Something like that.
It was like middle COVID.
Yeah. So I remember that. But one of the things I remember about, like, just when you're answering that question, is there were times with some of the leaders that you inherited where you were leading with your heart a lot, and you would call me. I remember she would call me and say, I don't get it. Like, why are they doing this? Or what, like, they actually could be good. And I'm like, okay, but are they the right person for your business? Like, at some point you have to ask that question, and you have to be willing to say that this person, because when you fire somebody or you let somebody go or they resign or whatever you want to say it is, like, that doesn't mean that that person's not valuable. Like, every person has some value they can bring, right? But are they valuable to where you're at this moment? Like, that's a good question that you need to ask. And sometimes you need to even tell them when you are firing them or moving past them as part of your leadership team. It's like, hey, like, I'm doing you a favor as well, because you have value you can add, but it's not here. And so I think at times, like, we take on projects. I mean, we're the world's most caring company. That's what we do, right? But that's not sustainable for a business. At the end of the day, we are a business, and we have to produce results. And so I think that was something I really remember you really leading with your heart a lot. And you were like, but they're a good person. I'd be like, okay, but are they the right person? Like, that's what you have to ask yourself. Are they the right person for the seat that you want them to be in? So just a thought.
Hey guys, what's up? It's your friend, Pastor John R. Adolph from the Antioch Church in Beaumont, Texas. And I just want to slip this in right quick so you'll never forget. It's all about progress over perfection here at TPE.
Tap into the Pivot Experience where we help young, hungry entrepreneurs move on to the next step.